My mother-in-law stood in the middle of my living room, pointed toward the door and screamed, "Get out of my house!" When I calmly asked what she meant, my husband Marcus looked at the floor and said nothing. That was the moment I knew something had gone very, very wrong, not just in that conversation, but in my entire marriage. We were standing in the 2-story craftsman home I had purchased in Zionsville, Indiana, 3 years. Before I ever met Marcus Chen, I had spent 8 months renovating that house, myself stripping wallpaper, refinishing the original oak floors, and replacing every outdated light fixture. The mortgage was in my name. The property tax bills came addressed to me. The homeowner's insurance policy listed me as the sole owner. But according to my mother-in-law, Diane Chen, none of that mattered. I'm Vanessa Brooks. I'm 52 years old, and I spent 26 years working in corporate procurement before launching my own supply chain consulting firm. I've negotiated contracts worth millions of dollars. I've fired vendors who tried to overbill me by 50 cents. I don't miss details, except apparently I had missed several very important ones. The argument started because I asked Diane to call before visiting. She'd used the garage code, Marcus's idea from 6 months earlier, to let herself in while I was on a client call. I walked downstairs to find her rearranging my kitchen cabinets. "The spices should be near the stove," she said without looking up. "Diane, I've asked you to text before coming over." She waved her hand dismissively. "Marcus said I'm always welcome. This is my house. I'd appreciate advance notice." That was when she turned around. Her face flushed. "Your house? You wouldn't have anything without my son." I blinked. "What does that mean?" "Marcus built everything you have. This house, your little consulting business, all of it exists because he gave you credibility." I felt my jaw tighten. "I bought this house in 2019. I met Marcus in 2022. And who do you think has been covering your expenses since then?" I stared at her. "I cover my own expenses." Diane laughed. It wasn't a pleasant sound. "Marcus is the CEO of a tech company. You run a small consulting firm from a spare bedroom. Do the math, Vanessa. I do the math every month when I pay the mortgage." Her expression hardened. "You've gotten very comfortable spending his money and pretending it's yours." "I haven't spent his money." "Really?" She crossed her arms. "Who do you think paid for the new HVAC system? The kitchen remodel? That ridiculous outdoor furniture? I paid for all of that. With money Marcus gave you." I opened my mouth, then closed it. Something about her certainty made my stomach drop. Marcus had been standing near the hallway this entire time. I turned toward him. "Tell her." He shifted his weight. "Mom, maybe we should—" "Tell her what?" Diane demanded. "That you've been supporting her while she plays businesswoman?" I looked at Marcus. "Tell your mother who owns this house." He ran his hand through his hair. That was his tell. The gesture he made whenever he was about to say something he'd been avoiding. "Marcus," I said quietly, "who owns this house?" "You do," he said finally. "The house is yours?" Diane's face went rigid. "What?" "The deed is in Vanessa's name. It was hers before we got married." There was a long, terrible silence. Then Diane turned to me, and I watched her recalculate everything. She had been so certain, so absolutely confident that her son was the provider, the earner, the one holding everything together. The realization that she'd been wrong didn't make her apologize. It made her angrier. "Fine," she said, her voice low. "But Marcus is still the CEO of a major company, and you're still—" "Mom," Marcus's voice was sharp. "Stop." "I will not stop. She needs to understand—" "He's not." Both of them turned to look at me. I felt my heart pounding, but my voice stayed level. "He's not the CEO anymore." "Are you, Marcus?" The color drained from his face. Diane laughed again. "Don't be ridiculous. Of course he is." I kept my eyes on my husband. "When were you going to tell me?" "Vanessa." "How long?" He closed his eyes. 4 months. The room tilted slightly. 4 months, I repeated. Diane looked between us. "What is she talking about?" Marcus didn't answer. I did. "Your son was removed as CEO 4 months ago. The board forced him out. That's absurd." He would have told me. He tells me everything. I finally looked at her. Apparently he doesn't. Let me take you back 6 weeks. I woke at 6:15 on a Tuesday morning with my left shoulder burning, rotator cuff injury from years of carrying laptop bags through airports. Physical therapy helped, but some mornings the pain woke me before my alarm. I made coffee, took 2 ibuprofen, and opened my laptop at the kitchen table. At 6:43, I logged into our joint checking account to transfer money for quarterly taxes. The balance was $340. I stared at the screen. The previous month, we'd had over $40,000 in that account. Marcus's executive salary was deposited there twice monthly. Mine went into my business account, but I transferred a set amount every month to cover shared expenses. I pulled up the transaction history. What I found made my hands go cold. 17 transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. Payments to credit cards I'd never opened. Cash withdrawals, sometimes 3 or 4 per week, each for the daily maximum. Then I saw the mortgage payment. It had been returned for insufficient funds. The mortgage on my house, the house I'd owned for 6 years. It had never once had a late payment. I grabbed my phone and called Marcus. He was supposedly at an early leadership meeting. "Hey," he answered. His voice sounded strained. "Can I call you back?" The mortgage payment bounced. Silence. "Marcus, the joint account is almost empty." "What happened?" "I'll fix it." "Fix what?" "I had to move some money around. I'll transfer more today." "Move it where?" "Vanessa, I'm in the middle of something. I'll explain tonight." He hung up. I sat there for several minutes, my coffee going cold. Then I opened my business bank account, the one only I had access to. At 7:02, I began reviewing 6 months of statements. By 9:30, I had found $73,000 in transfers I didn't remember authorizing. By 11 I had discovered that someone had added Marcus as an authorized user on my primary business credit card. By 2:15 that afternoon, I was sitting across from Rita Alvarez, the attorney who had handled my business incorporation. Rita read through the printed statements while I sat with my shoulder throbbing. I'd forgotten to do my physical therapy exercises. Again. "These transfers," she said carefully. "Do you have documentation showing you approved them?" "No." "Email requests?" "Text messages asking permission." I shook my head. She pointed to a series of payments marked MC Consulting Services. "What's this?" "I have no idea." She made a note. "And the credit card?" I didn't add him. "You're certain?" "I'm certain." Rita folded her hands. "Vanessa, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest." "All right. Is there any possibility you're forgetting these conversations? Any chance you agreed to these transfers and... I'm 52, not 82, and I'm a procurement specialist. I don't forget financial agreements." She nodded slowly. I had to ask. "I know. The credit card authorization has a date, March 14th. Where were you?" I pulled out my phone and checked my calendar. Pittsburgh. Client site visit. "Can you prove it?" "I have the hotel receipt and the client meeting notes." "Good, that's very good." She walked me through the next steps. Freeze my credit. Change all my passwords. Remove Marcus from any shared accounts. Document everything. "Don't confront him yet," she said. "Not until we know what we're dealing with." But that advice lasted exactly 4 hours. Marcus came home at 7:30 that evening. I was sitting at the dining table with 6 months of bank statements spread across the surface. He stopped in the doorway. "What's all this?" "You tell me." He set down his briefcase slowly. "Vanessa, I said I'd explain." "MC Consulting Services. What is it?" His jaw tightened. "It's complicated." "Uncomplicated. Can we not do this right now?" I pointed to a statement. $73,000, Marcus. From my business account. Where did it go? I borrowed it." "Borrowed?" "I'm going to pay it back." "When?" He didn't answer. "Why did you need it?" "Business expenses. You're a CEO, you have a corporate card." Something flickered across his face. "I had some personal obligations." "What obligations require $73,000? "Vanessa, are you gambling?" "No." "Drugs?" "Jesus, no. Nothing like that." "Then what?" He pulled out a chair and sat down heavily. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, "The company's been struggling." I waited. "We lost 2 major contracts last year. The board brought in consultants. They wanted to restructure the leadership team." My stomach tightened. "Go on." "They asked me to step down." "When?" 4 months ago. The number hit me like cold water. 4 months. They gave me a severance package, but it was tied up in company stock. I couldn't access it immediately. "So you took my money." "I borrowed it," he said again, "to cover expenses until the stock vested." "What expenses?" He gestured vaguely. "The mortgage, the car payments, your property taxes." "My property taxes?" I leaned forward. You paid my taxes with my own money and called it borrowing? You don't understand the pressure I was under. You're right. I don't, because you didn't tell me. I didn't want you to worry. I laughed. It sounded harsh even to my own ears. You didn't want me to know. He stood up. I was going to tell you once I sorted everything out. It's been 4 months, Marcus. When exactly were you planning to mention that you're unemployed? I'm not unemployed. I'm consulting. For MC Consulting Services? He didn't answer. That's you, isn't it? You created a fake company and paid yourself with my money. It's not fake. I'm doing real work. For who? I have clients. Name one. Silence. I gathered the statements. I'm removing you from all my accounts. Vanessa, don't do this. You did this. I made a mistake. I'll pay you back. With what money? He opened his mouth, then closed it. I stood. My shoulders screamed in protest, but I ignored it. I need you to stay somewhere else tonight. This is my home. No, I said quietly. It's mine. He left. Not to a hotel. I checked our account and saw no charges. He went to his mother's house, which explained why Diane showed up unannounced the next morning, rearranging my kitchen and telling me I owed everything to her son. After she finally left, still insisting, Marcus would straighten me out. I sat down with my laptop and did what I should have done months earlier. I searched Marcus Chen's name along with his former company, VoltStream Technologies. The first article was dated 4 months prior. VoltStream announces leadership transition. The second was more direct. CEO Marcus Chen steps down amid financial irregularities investigation. My hands started shaking. The third article mentioned the board's unanimous vote to remove him. The fourth discussed missing vendor payments and questionable expense reports. I called Rita. I need you to find out if I'm liable for anything, I said. What kind of anything? The company he ran is being investigated. If he did something illegal, you're not on any corporate paperwork, are you? No. Then you're likely protected. But Vanessa, she paused. You need to file for divorce. Today, the divorce petition was filed that afternoon. Marcus showed up at 9:00 p.m. using his key. I had already changed the locks. He knocked, then pounded, then called my phone 11 times. I answered on the 12th call. Let me in. No, we need to talk. My attorney will send you paperwork tomorrow. Vanessa, please. I can explain everything. You've had 4 months to explain. I'm done waiting. I hung up. The next morning, Diane called. How dare you humiliate my son? I haven't humiliated anyone. You filed for divorce without even trying to work things out. He stole $73,000 from me, Diane. He borrowed it. Family helps each other. He lied to me for 4 months because he knew you'd overreact exactly like this. I closed my eyes. I'm not discussing this with you. Fine. But you need to understand something, Vanessa. My son has powerful friends, people who will make your little consulting business very uncomfortable if you push this. Is that a threat? It's a reality check. You're nobody without Marcus. I felt something go very still inside me. We'll see. 3 days later, I received an email from a former VoltStream board member named Catherine Okoye. Ms. Brooks, I hope you'll forgive the direct outreach. I've recently learned about your divorce filing. I wonder if we might speak confidentially about your husband's business practices. I believe we may have shared concerns. We met that afternoon at a coffee shop in Carmel. Catherine was in her early 60s, with silver hair and the kind of direct gaze that made people tell the truth. She'd been on VoltStream's board for 8 years. Marcus was brilliant in the beginning, she said. Genuine vision for the company. But about 2 years ago, things changed. How? Expenses that didn't make sense. Vendor contracts signed without board approval. Then we discovered he'd been using company funds to cover personal obligations. My stomach dropped. What kind of obligations? His mother's medical bills, for one. I stared at her. Diane's medical bills? She had some kind of cosmetic procedure that wasn't covered by insurance. $70,000. Marcus paid it through a fake vendor invoice. The number felt familiar. Horribly familiar. When was this? Last year, March. The same month he'd started taking money from my account. Catherine continued. We gave him a chance to repay it quietly. He promised he would. Instead, he created more fake invoices. How much total? Nearly $400,000. I couldn't breathe. The board had no choice, Catherine said gently. We had to protect the company. Is he going to be prosecuted? That depends on whether he repays the money. We've given him 6 months. He doesn't have it. I know. She looked at me carefully. which is why I'm assuming he's been taking it from you. I nodded slowly. Ms. Brooks, I'm very sorry, but there's something else you should know. What? Your business, VB Supply Chain Consulting? Yes. Marcus has been telling people you're closing it. What? He's been reaching out to your clients, suggesting they transition to other consultants because you're retiring. The coffee shop seemed to tilt. 3 of your clients have contacted me asking if I knew anyone else. Catherine said quietly. I told them they should speak with you directly. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and checked my business email. 4 cancellation notices, all received in the last week, all apologizing for the short notice and wishing me well in retirement. I called an emergency meeting with my remaining clients. 2 had already signed with other consultants, both recommended by Marcus. The other 6 were confused. We heard you were stepping back for health reasons, one said carefully. I'm 52 and I have a rotator cuff injury. I'm not dying. Marcus said you were overwhelmed, that you'd asked him to help transition your clients to avoid letting anyone down. I felt my jaw clench. Marcus is unemployed and lied to me for 4 months. I'm not going anywhere. The client blinked. Oh. By the end of the week, I'd regained 4 clients and lost 2 permanently. The financial damage was over. $200,000 in projected annual revenue. Rita filed an emergency motion. The hearing was set for Thursday morning. Marcus showed up with an expensive attorney and a new suit. Diane sat directly behind him, glaring at me. My attorney presented the evidence. The unauthorized transfers. The fake consulting company. The stolen business opportunities. Marcus's attorney argued that everything was a misunderstanding between spouses, with shared finances. Then Rita stood. Your Honor, I'd like to call Catherine Okoye as a witness. Marcus went pale. Catherine explained the VoltStream investigation. The fake invoices, the repayment deadline, and Mr. Chen is required to repay approximately $400,000 by September, she concluded. The judge looked at Marcus. Is this accurate? His attorney whispered something to him. Mr. Chen, the judge repeated, are you under financial obligation to repay your former employer for $100,000? Yes, Your Honor. And do you have the funds to do so? I'm working on securing them. From where? Marcus hesitated. Then, I was hoping to negotiate a settlement with my wife. The judge's expression hardened. You were hoping to use marital assets, which appear to be entirely hers, to repay money you allegedly stole from your employer? It's not stealing if I intended to repay. Answer the question. Marcus looked at his attorney, then at his mother, then at the floor. Yes, Your Honor. The judge granted my motion for exclusive possession of the house. All bank accounts frozen and an expedited discovery process. As we left the courtroom, Diane caught my arm. You've destroyed him, she hissed. I removed her hand carefully. No, he did that himself. He made one mistake. He made dozens, including marrying someone he thought would be easier to steal from than his employer. Her eyes widened. Your son didn't marry me because he loved me. Diane. He married me because I had good credit and a paid-off house. I walked away before she could respond. The divorce took 7 months. Marcus's severance stock never vested. VoltStream withheld it against his debt. He was forced to sell his car, his watch collection, and eventually file for bankruptcy. Diane stopped speaking to me entirely, which was possibly the greatest gift she ever gave me. I rebuilt my client list. It took 8 months and more networking than I'd done in a decade, but I did it. One of my new clients was VoltStream. Catherine recommended me personally. Last month, Marcus sent an email. I'm sorry for everything. I was ashamed and I made terrible choices. I hope someday you can forgive me. I didn't respond. Not because I'm cruel, but because forgiveness isn't the same thing as trust, and I've learned to protect both. My house is still mine. My business is thriving. My shoulder still hurts on cold mornings. But I've started physical therapy again, and when people ask me about my ex-husband, the CEO, I smile and correct them. He was a CEO. Now he's a cautionary tale. If you've ever had someone try to claim credit for what you built, or steal from you while pretending to help, I hope you remember this. Your accomplishments don't belong to anyone else. Not a spouse, not their family, not anyone who mistakes your kindness for weakness. Setting boundaries may cost you a relationship, but protecting yourself saves everything else.